We're living through what is truly a revolution in metabolic health. There's this incredibly powerful new class of medications that's just fundamentally changing how we treat conditions like obesity and type 2 diabetes. But as these amazing tools become more and more widespread, a really critical question pops up. Where does exercise, our oldest, most tested health intervention, fit into this brand new world? So let's break down the science and figure out how these two powerful forces can and really should work together.
Yeah, GLP-1 agonists are without a doubt a massive leap forward. The results they're getting are literally life-changing for millions of people. But when we're talking about true long-term sustainable health, are they the whole story? Or is there maybe a foundational piece of our metabolic puzzle that we absolutely cannot afford to ignore?
So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start by looking at this new metabolic era that's being shaped by these drugs. Then, we're going to rediscover your body's most powerful tool for controlling glucose, your skeletal muscle. We'll explore the fascinating connection between muscle and hormones, and then we'll directly compare the outcomes of drugs versus exercise. After that, we'll uncover the incredible power they have when they work together, and finally, we'll put it all together into an evidence-based protocol you can actually use.
Okay, let's dive right in with the therapies making all the headlines, incretin-based drugs. Now, incretins are really just hormones that your gut releases after you eat. These new drugs, specifically the GLP-1 receptor agonists, are designed to mimic one of the most important ones. So what are they exactly, and how do they pull this off?
Well, these medications basically work by copying the actions of a natural hormone our gut makes called GLP-1. And this does a few really powerful things. It tells the pancreas to release insulin when your blood sugar is high. It slows down how quickly your stomach empties, which is a huge reason you feel fuller for longer. And it works directly on your brain to seriously dial down your appetite and cravings.
And the results, they're pretty profound. We see in clinical trials again and again that these drugs can lead to an average body weight loss of 10 to 15%, sometimes even more. It's no wonder they've become a cornerstone for treating obesity and type 2 diabetes. But, and this is a big but, while they are incredibly effective, they don't work in a vacuum. So let's turn to the other major player in our metabolic health.
And that other player? It's your skeletal muscle. We usually think about muscle for things like strength or posture or movement, right? But its role in our metabolism is just as critical, maybe even more so. It is, by far, the most important tool our body has for managing blood sugar.
Just by sheer mass, skeletal muscle is the largest organ system in your entire body. But all that size isn't just for moving you around. From a metabolic point of view, it is the #1 destination for the glucose, the sugar, that enters your bloodstream after you eat a meal.
Get a load of this number. About 80% of the glucose you absorb from a meal is headed straight for your skeletal muscle. Your muscles act like this massive glucose sink, just pulling that sugar right out of circulation so it can be safely stored as something called glycogen, or just burned for energy. The bigger and more efficient this sink is, the better your blood sugar control is going to be, and the less work your pancreas has to do. It's that simple.
And here's the really crucial point. There are two main ways to get glucose into a muscle cell. The first way needs insulin to act like a key to unlock the door. But the second way, which is totally unique to muscle, gets switched on by contraction, by exercise. This pathway doesn't need insulin at all, which is an absolute game changer, especially for anyone with insulin resistance, where that first key and lock system is basically broken.
Let's take a quick peek at how that insulin-free mechanism actually works. So when your muscles contract, they activate this master metabolic sensor called AMPK. This sends a direct signal to these little proteins called GLUT4 transporters that are just hanging out inside the muscle cell. In response, these GLUT4 transporters travel to the cell surface and they act like brand new doors, opening up and letting glucose flood in directly from the bloodstream, completely bypassing the need for any insulin.
But wait, there's more. Muscle isn't just some passive storage tank for sugar. It's an active, dynamic organ that's constantly communicating with the rest of your body. When you exercise, your muscles actually become an endocrine organ, secreting their own powerful hormones. These signaling molecules are called myokines. You can think of them as little messages that your muscles send out into your bloodstream during and after a workout. They travel all over your body and talk to other organs, your fat tissue, your liver, your pancreas, even your brain, creating these amazing, widespread anti-inflammatory and pro-metabolic benefits.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. One of the myokines released during exercise is called interleukin-6. And what does it do? Well, among other things, it helps slow down gastric emptying. Now, that should sound familiar, right? Because that's one of the main things GLP-1 drugs do. It's just a beautiful example of a convergent pathway where exercise and these advanced medications are getting to a similar, beneficial goal through totally different routes. And it gets even better. On top of the myokines, the simple act of physical movement is a direct signal for your gut to produce and release more of your own natural GLP-1. So not only does exercise mimic some of the effects of these drugs, it also nudges your body to make more of the real thing, which naturally boosts your satiety and helps control your blood sugar. So we've got two incredibly powerful tools here: GLP-1 drugs and exercise. They both do amazing things for our metabolic health. But how do they actually stack up against each other when we look at the cold, hard data from clinical trials? All right, when it comes to just a sheer amount of weight lost, especially in the short to medium term, it's not even a contest. GLP-1 agonists consistently lead to significantly more weight loss than exercise-only plans. The pharmacological power here is just undeniable.
But, and this is where we have to ask a much smarter question, is all weight loss the same? I mean, what is that weight actually made of? This is where the story gets a whole lot more nuanced and, frankly, much more important.
Now this right here reveals a critical detail about drug-induced weight loss. Data from huge trials like STEP 1 and SURMOUNT 1 show that while most of the weight lost is fat, a really significant chunk, we're talking anywhere from 25 to 40%, is lean mass. And that's your muscle, your bone, your connective tissue. Losing that much metabolically active muscle is a major long-term problem because it lowers your resting metabolic rate and it shrinks your body's essential glucose sink. So here's the bottom line. These two interventions have very different effects on your body composition. The drugs are fantastic for driving fat loss, but they come with a big risk of sarcopenia, the loss of muscle mass and function. Exercise, on the other hand, is the single best tool we have for preserving and even building muscle mass while you lose weight, all while making you more fit.
And the benefits of structured exercise are just incredible. Just look at this data from a 12-week trial with people who have type 2 diabetes. Both high-intensity interval training and a combo of aerobic and resistance training led to massive drops in fasting glucose and long-term blood sugar, or HbA1c. But now look closely at those last two rows. They also significantly decreased dangerous visceral fat while at the same time increasing fat-free mass. They didn't just lose weight, they totally recomposed their bodies for better long-term metabolic health.
This brings us right to the main point of this whole explainer. This isn't a story of either or. It's not drugs versus lifestyle. It's a story of both and. The future of metabolic medicine is all about the powerful, smart synergy between pharmacology and exercise.
The message is so simple but so profound. Combining GLP-1 therapy with structured exercise isn't just adding one good thing to another, it's synergistic. They multiply each other's effects. Each one perfectly covers the other's weaknesses, leading to a much better health outcome than either one could ever get on its own.
See, when you combine them, exercise gives that critical signal to preserve the muscle that the drugs and the calorie deficit might otherwise get rid of. This partnership not only boosts overall fat loss, but it dramatically improves your chances of keeping that weight off if you ever stop the medication. It leads to bigger improvements in metabolic health, everything from reducing inflammation to acting on shared brain pathways to control your appetite.
The scientific consensus on this is clear, and it's just getting stronger. Just as this recent review in a major medical journal says, the combination is probably the single most effective therapeutic strategy we have. Exercise gives the muscle-preserving signal, while the medication gives the powerful push for fat loss and appetite control. It's really a perfect match.
Okay, so knowing all of this, how do we actually put it into practice? What does an effective, evidence-based exercise plan look like for someone on these medications, or, honestly, for anyone who wants to optimize their metabolic health?
And let's be really clear here. The key isn't just about burning more calories or mindlessly exercising more. It's about being strategic. We need to send the right signals to the body to get our specific goals, protecting and building muscle, improving insulin sensitivity, and boosting our cardiovascular fitness.
All right, based on all the clinical evidence, an ideal weekly plan really has three core parts. First, 2 to 3 sessions of resistance training. This is non-negotiable. It's the main signal that tells your body to build and hold on to precious muscle. Second, you'll want to add 2 to 3 sessions of cardiovascular work. It's best to mix some lower intensity cardio, like a brisk walk, with some high intensity intervals to really maximize that insulin sensitivity. And finally, all this physical work has to be supported with enough protein to give your muscles the building blocks they need. And this lines up perfectly with a protein-forward, inverted food pyramid lifestyle. If there's one thing you take away from this, especially if you're considering or using these medications, let it be this. Think of resistance training as your insurance policy. It is the most powerful tool you have to fight back against the main drawback of rapid, drug-induced weight loss, making sure that what you're losing is fat, not your metabolically critical muscle.
And that really brings us to our conclusion. The excitement around these new drugs is absolutely justified. They are a powerful and necessary tool for so many people. But that enthusiasm should not and cannot be allowed to overshadow the foundational role of lifestyle. Movement and nutrition are still absolutely essential for a truly holistic and sustainable approach to your health.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. As our medical toolkit for treating metabolic disease gets more and more advanced, our challenge is going to be integrating these new technologies without forgetting the timeless biological necessity of movement. How can we build a future where powerful drugs and the basic principles of lifestyle work hand in hand, creating health outcomes that are better than we ever thought possible?